All right, so let's start today's meetup. Thank you everyone for joining. We're doing this meetup on overview of generative AI on GCP. So it's all arranged by the Data Couch. Like they provide a lot of trainings to professionals, and they are into consulting business as well. And they have a global presence across multiple countries. They have trained around 150,000 uh, plus 150,000 participants, and like they have trained in 75 different countries. Topics covered, a lot of footprints in different companies, and like they have created this whole community of knowledge through which this is also one of the initiative where you are joining this meetup. They recently are recognized as their global education partner by Confluent. Um, and they are also the first training delivery partner chosen by Starburst. So, little introduction about myself. I am Akshat, and I have around like 5 years of industry experience in big data now. And currently, I'm a technical solutions engineer at Google. Prior to this, I was part of a company called Exium, which was in US. And prior to that, I was leading the security analytics team in Reliance Jio. So I'm a professional, like Google certified cloud architect, as well as Oracle certified programmer, a Java programmer, and a Red Hat certified engineer. So that's pretty much it. I think like I'm going to start with the agenda, like just a few things that like feel free to raise your hands at any point in time if you have any questions, or you can also type in your questions in the chat. We have panelists from Data Couch, so like they can try to address your queries. Otherwise, you can like simply raise your hands, and then you'll be able to unmute yourself at any point in time and then ask your questions so that we can discuss. So let's try to keep this as interactive as possible. All right. Okay. So what is generative AI? We'll discuss that, and then we'll discuss a lot of applications around it, why it's booming up. Then we'll go a little bit like give an overview about like where this whole generative AI fits in the whole landscape of artificial intelligence. What are the different model types? We'll discuss like not in detail, but like more popular ones, and show some little demo towards the end. We'll discuss about little prompt engineering, how you can fine tune a model over GCP without like much knowledge of coding, or even without much knowledge of much background of machine learning. So that is what we're going to discuss today. And would like I'll try to slightly rush through the theory because of that you can get some glimpse of the demo, and we can spend more time on that. So let's get started. Now, what is generative AI? It's a type of AI which essentially generates synthetic content. Like it can be images or textual content or audios or any kind of synthetic content based on what it has learned from like training data. So like you already know some of the famous conversational chatbots which are in market now, like Bard and let's say ChatGPT, which are like generating all sorts of content, be it blogging or creating some kind of like media let's say promotions content or anything like emails, writing emails, text completion, text classification. Now, as per the like Gartner report, by 2025, 30% of the outbound marketing messages like will be synthetically generated, and we'll have like some position called chief AI officers as well in companies, which will become very common, and they will directly report to CEO or CEO. So that's the report by Gartner. Now, there are a lot of applications, as I said, around textual contents. If you provide a prompt, they will give you the content, like be it for marketing or sales or writing articles. Let's even if you want to create content for your website, even a lot of things like I created for this presentation were using AI as well. So they can also like generate images based on some prompts. So we'll see a little demo about that later today, and it can also help developers to generate their code, design their test cases of the code, And let's say, if they want to, even if they want to understand some code, and it has that explainability aspect where it can really document your code well and like explain you that. And of course, the one of the application is in the conversational AI space, where they are using they are creating virtual assistant chatbots, and you can use them for various different aspects. All right. So this is the primary focus in terms of like industries. They are heavily used in healthcare, entertainment, media, automotive manufacturing. So I'll give you an example. Like I was reading some reports recently around, where they were trying to generate various kind of drug composition in healthcare industry to synthesize some kind of composition for a drug which can cure the illness, for certain diseases. So that is one of the major applications specific to domains where you can use that. Now, we have come a very long way in our journey of like machine learning. Earlier, when we used to have fixed amount of algorithms and code, where the things were rule based, where we used to define now and get answers. But later on, with the era of machine learning, where we wanted like the machine to learn by themselves from the data, and that's where machine learning and deep learning came into picture, where based on some input, they were able to predict things for us, or predict some output and generate outputs. And now we are in an era where we are like just generating the content synthetically, like, so we don't even have to worry about like like let's say rephrasing emails, or writing any content, create any video, creating any animation from your ideas. We'll like you'll get a more nice experience once we get to the demo. And that's the so like this is a bit of about timeline, where like in 2010 we had the near perfect translation for natural language, like word to word, token to token. We were able to translate, let's say, from English to French or anything. And then in 2014 we were more about like making sense of the meanings of the data, meaning of the word, and then get context and create chatbots, so to say. But major revolution came when the white paper came around. Like the attention is all you need. It's a very nice research paper, and it forms the basis of the modern like all the conversational AI bots, all the models, language learning models, which essentially like gives you that performance of like remarkable performance around the content generation. So we'll dig a little deeper in the coming slides. So hold on to that. In the whole AI landscape, like just wanted to give you a picture like where all this fits. So AI is a big umbrella. Like as you know, it's more like a discipline, more like physics, where like it's about creating intelligent agents who can like autonomously like take decisions, think like humans, more or less. And machine learning is one of the subfields, which one way to achieve that, like using statistical models, where you give some training input data, test it, or against evaluation data, and then you generate the output and generate predictions, so to say. Now, even within the machine learning, there was another subfield called deep learning, which essentially is about using the neural networks. Neural networks is something which is inspired from human brains. It has like multiple layers of neurons, and each layer like gives input and output to the other subsequent layers. And like once neural networks were there, like then the came of era of generative AI models and language learning models, which are essentially making use of this with some different like new architectures. So this is how like whole generative AI fits into the picture. It's a subfield of deep learning, I would say. Now there are different deep learning model types. One is discriminative and the other is generative. Now discriminative, we know, like when you, let's say, give a whole lot of input data to the model, and let's say a lot of images of cats and dogs, or let's say apples and bananas, and then once the model is trained and you give a new picture to it of that, it is able to classify if it's a banana or a like apple. So that's discriminative classified. But generative is more about like, I give a lot of data about cats and dogs, and then I ask the model, what exactly is cat? Can you like describe cat? And it is able to generate that content. So just to show you diagram, look, in a diagram found that we gives a lot of apples and banana images, and then it is able to classify an image. But generative AI model was more about, read all these paragraphs, read all these books and transcripts, and then try to summarize for me, or try to tell me what exactly this cats and dogs like is about, what exactly Apple is, summarize in that case. Now, within generative models, like we have two major types. Like there are a lot of different types, but like today we are going to discuss the image model and the language learning model. So language model essentially take inputs in the form of text or image, and then the output can be, another image or some kind of like regenerated image. You change the texture of the image. We'll see an example today of that. And another application is when you upload an image and it is automatically able to describe it, like what's happening inside the image, or do the image captioning. That is also an application. And then image search, you upload a image and ask what this image is about, Q&A. Also, about a lot of applications are there regarding enhancing the resolution of the images. Let's say you have blurry images, and like you want to enhance the resolution for that. So like aesthetically, that models can generate whole lot of images for you. And then once you upload an image, you can give ideas around like, and it can generate animation as well, or some kind of GIFs. So in that scenarios. Whereas on the language model, it deals mostly on textual data, where you give something called a prompt. Now we'll discuss prompt in more detail, but it's essentially a small piece of text which elicit which the response from the model, and like gives us enables the model to give us what we want. And it can be anything, it can be text summarization, or let's say it can also be a basic grammar correction or translation, or let's say if you want to classify like how does my email sound, identify the tone, is it polite, is it professional, is it unprofessional, or a lot of things around that. Like if you want to read a huge document or huge research paper, you can just upload it and ask to summarize it. So that's where LLMs or the large language models come into picture now. So this was the high level overview, but like how exactly these things are done, like because there are only a few of the big companies who has the power to like train such models on such a huge petabyte scale, large amount of data, and then make available for others to use. So these are essentially called foundation models, which are trained on massive scale on massive amount of data, and they are like good for doing your general tasks, which can be like around code review, summarization, classification, all the things I mentioned, right? But but if I ask them to treat like do a very specific task in a specific domain, they won't be able to do it, right? Because like it's very specific to a particular domain. It's like let's say there is a dog, right? Like and you want to train that dog. So that like if you are able to tell them like sit or eat or like run, these are basic, and this it makes them a good like let's say a dog citizen, so to say. But like if I want to train them specifically for like police dog or guard dogs or army military dogs, we need additional amount of training, right? So that's where like foundation models enable others to add their own layer of training. Like additional, you don't have to retrain the foundation model, but on top of that, you add your layer of data sets, add layer of some kind of prompt engineering, and like try to get that specifics out of that model, and it will help you. So this is a very common use case now, which is being followed. Like we pick some foundation models, and on top of that, we add our layer to train additionally on that. So like it's essentially a large language model which can take input in multiple forms: textual, image, speech, or even structured, unstructured data, and like the output can be question answering or sentiment analysis around like text classification or image extraction, summarization, captioning, as I said, all the models. So now, before moving to the demo, like just this is the high level working, like what are the little components around LLMs. Large language models use something called transformer. Transformer consists of essentially an encoding component and a decoding component. Now, whenever you provide an input to the encoder basically converts that into a form which is like, let's say, unified, some kind of vector form, which would be similar for similar meaning words, right? Let's say you say a dog or a cat, right? And the encoder essentially does is like it creates two similar vectors, which can essentially mean that, you know, four-legged animal, which is furry, which is, let's say, a pet category. So it's some kind of similar vector meaning, and then that vector acts as an input to the decoder, and decoder, like layer by layer, it can generate similar text, similar or output based on that input vectors. And once that vector is feed into the generative model, it can give you various kinds of output. Like it can predict what should come next out of the sentence, or what would make more sense. It calculates a lot of probabilities around that, and then it chooses what are the best outcomes for that case scenarios. Now, this is about generative AI in general, but like here we are today to discuss what exactly you can do around GCP. Now, GCP allows you to use a tool called VertexAI, which is a service for anyone. Like you can deploy machine learning models easily on the service, and and even if you want to build custom models, if you want to use pre-trained models and like build your applications in machine learning, VertexAI is a managed service which GCP provides. Now, around generative AI, recently they launched Generative AI Studio and Model Garden, which essentially allows you to build those applications very easily with a very minimalistic code, and let's say without more like knowledge of machine learning, or you don't have to code much. So we'll see that in a demo. All right, so this was more like theoretical overview. Any questions till now? And I wanted to very quickly move to the console so that we can see the live demos. All right, let me open the Cloud Console. Okay. So this is the Cloud Console. I hope you are able to see my screen. All right. Yeah, so for, let's say, image generation, we have something called GANs. Yeah. So okay, any specific ID? So we'll do the demo on GCP, Shri, and then let's see how it goes. And then after that, I'll tell you how to build your own applications using the GCP services. And then if you have any further questions, then we can address them. All right, so this is the GCP console, and then you have something called VertexAI. I have pinned this because I'm a frequent user, but let's say you can search here also, and then click on that. Now, it has a lot of components. Like for machine learning developers, you have something called Model Garden, where you have a lot of foundation models already built, and you can train your custom. You can use the models to build your own application, or you can put your own custom layer on top of them to generate your own specific domain applications using these models. Workbench is for who are used to use Jupyter notebooks. So GCP provides that facility to you, to develop your own custom models using Workbench. But today we'll be focus on more generative studio aspect. Let's not the notebook. Let's go to generative studio overview. Okay, so Generative AI Studio lets you quickly like customize and explore a lot of tools, with minimalistic coding, and you can deploy your applications quickly. So it has majorly three categories: language, speech, and vision. So like let's try with vision and try out this API. What is it all about? So the very first step when you like open any application is to enable that API. So I'm going to enable that. Whenever you enable an API, like you must know that like you essentially start getting charged for that service, like when you use that service. All right. So this is the vision console for generative AI. All right. Okay. It seems like this feature is not available on this project. Let me quickly open the other project. All right. So I have this project where I think it's already there. Yes. All right. So based on this, like, so this is the prompt window where you can like provide your prompt and generate all sorts of images. Let's say I was trying in the morning around like image around house on top of clouds, right? Let's be creative, and you click on generate. Right. So like, see, like this is not Photoshop or anything. It's not editing, but it's just like the model is using different kind of algorithms on behind the scenes, which is involves neural networks and diffusion techniques, and it is able to give you those results. You can get as creative as you want, and in the end export the images. Let's say if I do a lion with sunglasses, it is able to generate some kind of image around that. So yeah, and like you have a lot of parameters around this. Like let's say if a negative prompt can be like if you want to exclude some kind of explicit bias or anything. Let's say if I ask them to exclude brown color or anything, this can be anything, and click on generate. So it is able to account for that as well. Yeah, like so yeah, it made it more colorful, I would say, and to do that aesthetic arrangements. So now a good good prompt is more like it's a skill itself. You don't want to put additional content. Like I often see people clicking that generate an image for me, generate a brown or lion with image. So like it's good to just describe like what your image should look like in the end. So that's a good example of prompt. We'll discuss in more in detail when we'll go to language learning models. But like just to keep in mind, like just be as specific as crisp as possible, and you would be able to generate that. Now if I go to edit, or let's say you can like go from here only. If you click on this and edit image, you can make edits. Like if you want to, let's say, change the texture of the image, so you can do like convert this into an oil painting. Now let's say what happens. All right, so it is able to like perform all sorts of editing and results. So this was another application of like how models being used to like change the whole texture of the image. Another application I told you about was caption generation. So like let's say if I want to if I reset and upload a fresh image, let's say. So this is my like image on recent trip, and like let's say I try to describe it. It is able to analyze like what's the content of the image, and it says that a man stands in front of a lake with mountains in the background, right? So it is able to analyze that. And you can generate as many captions as you want. You can, it supports right now, it supports like 5 languages. So you can go there. And you can also, another application is to ask visual Q&A, let's say, right? Like if I ask what, I don't know, what place is this? Or let's say what country is this? So it has a lot, it is trained on a lot of yeah. So it gives us 3 options, like because I selected. So one is Austria, which is correct, like because this is a picture from a town called Hellstadt. Second, like it wasn't able to find any answer, but third, it like give Europe. So like it's so it right now, like if you choose depending on number of answers, and for the Q&A right now only English is supported, it will be able to do that. So, and then there is a whole prompt guide which you can read, which will tell you how exactly to give precise instructions around that, and then we would be able to get results. So like a lot of companies are using this to generate and their like images around ad campaigns or media content, and like uh, synthetic images for like promotional stuff. So a lot of applications are there around this. The second category is the language. now now this is interesting because like this is majorly used language learning models where as I said, you don't have to code much. The foundation models like is already exists, a lot of things are already trained on. So you essentially have to like create prompts and like see the responses and use them in your application. Now prompt can be like, let's say what is the capital of France, right? And you'll submit it. The capital of France is Paris, right? So like, so you can play around this and like see how the existing foundation models go on. But like, let's say if you want to go to custom and give your generate specific domain training, so you'll have to provide a whole context around like without even coding. Let's say you can say that you are pizza ordering bot. Like this is the context enough. You are telling in plain English, you're not coding anything. And let's say you offer 3 types of pizzas. So I can, and then you can provide examples of input and output. And then, let's say, you can say, who are you? You can say, I'm a helper to get you pizza. Essentially, like when you add this, like it is just keeps on adding the layer on top of the foundation model and trains it for your specific use case which you're trying to do. And after that, you can test your prompts. Let's say you ask them, what can you do for me? Let's say you can click on submit, and then it will generate outputs. Yeah. I can help you order pizza, and that's what it says. And like, what kind of pizza would you like, right? So that's because we have given the context. Now, if you want to like really start exploring this and like have a free conversational chat, so you can start something like text chat. And when you like do the conversation here, you can provide full context here. Let's so again, like the way you train it here, I would say, let's say you are in tech support. Right. Now, one thing I wanted to like tell you about is the like prompt engineering in detail. Like, so a good prompt would like consist of, let's say, input context, which I'm giving right now here. You are in tech support, and the way like I can tell exactly what how you need to answer. Let's say if I say you need to answer, have you tried turning it off and on again, to all the questions. So like anyone can do this. You don't need any coding knowledge for this. You can just tell the instruction, the context, like what are you do, how you are supposed to answer it, and then it can tell you. Like, so in that case, like let's try with an example, right? Let's say if I say who are, I can just play around it. Who are you? Yeah. So like ideally, like without the context, it would have answered something like, I'm an assistant or anything. But just because we have given the context around it, like, and this context, like I'm showing a very small example, but this context can be around, like you can provide whole paragraphs, whole story, whole news articles, and then ask questions about those news articles. What was happening? What is the, like, let's say, can you summarize the whole article for me? And you can ask specific questions. What is happening on specific events and etc. So this was one thing. Other thing in prompt engineering is like you need to mention the output format also. Let's say I say you are in tech support, and you can you can only answer in yes or no, format, right? So like if I ask, let's say, now if I ask who are you, right? So the context is updated. Okay, like it's not updated. Let me try to refresh it. Yeah. Right. So like I told the model, it can only answer in yes or no format. So let's say I can also give whole examples and answers. Like if the question is, let's say, like this, what is capital of Germany? Say, right. An answer, I would say, like, Berlin. Berlin. And then typically, like if I ask what is the capital of France, it will just tell me one in Paris, right? But let's say I tell the model that answer in one sentence to all questions. Remove this, let's say, and then I ask, what's the capital of, let's say, Poland, right? So like now it is able to tell me, like, in one sentence. So depending on what you tell, it is able to automatically catch it, and then you can provide live examples of input and output, and it will be able to catch that thing. So what I'm essentially doing is I'm like, the whole foundation model is already trained on a huge amount of data set, but here I'm just adding a layer of my own customization specific to my company. Here you can put paragraphs, whole context, the examples of input and output, and then you can train your model accordingly. And yeah, I think so any questions till now on this window, or anything? Okay. So Palak has a question, like, Akshat, can you elaborate more on the hyperparameters like temperature token? Okay, so you see these things on the right side. Please, you have a lot of parameters which you can adjust. So hyperparameters are essentially which is like adjusted by humans, and it can be of lot of different types. So these tokens are essentially defining how your model is choosing the prediction, like how your model is trying to answer the question. So now model types can be different, like depending on what your use case is. Different model types are suited for different aspects, and hyperparameters like temperature defines like how much freedom you are giving your model to choose from a set of tokens, right? Like the more the temperature, like the model is more free to choose from the words which are, let's say, not having more probability to be chosen. It's like if I keep it 0, the model is more likely to give only specific answers, like more or less, because it will only choose the highest probability. We can we can try with an example. Let's say if I keep the temperature to 0, right, and I ask for sentence completion. Let's say I was walking in a forest and I found. Now, as a human, you would think there are a lot of options which can come into like complete the sentence, right? I can find a tree, I can find a, I don't know, flower or an animal. Okay, so in this case, it is not able to understand the question for some reason. Let me try to, yeah, let's try to keep it 0. And while walking in a forest, I found. Yeah. So this can be like, this is one answer, but like if I increase the temperature, like this was the highest probability answer more or less, but if I increase the temperature, the model is more free to choose from different, possible answers. Token limit is simply the word limit, like on which, the number of output words, you can adjust this. The maximum is 1024. Top K and top P is more around how you choose, like how the model is choosing that, those probabilities. So the final operation in the decoder side is the softmax, right, which essentially converts the whole results into like some kind of probability distribution, which is between 0 to 1. So top K is like, let's say I'm defining top 20, right? Top 20, top 18 in this case. So the top 18 most probable answers would be there, and the model is free to choose between like among those top 18 options only, right? And how much free it is, like it depends on the temperature. So the more the temperature, the more the model is like likely to give you answers which are more creative, or let's say not expected, like less probable. And it can be really good for content creators who want to be creative around that, so they can play around with this feature. And similarly, like top P is also the probability distribution. Let's say you have 4 words which have possibilities around like 50%, 30%, 80%, and like so. And the top P would be like cumulative sum of those probabilities. Let's say I mentioned that only 0.5 only. So only like top word which has 50% probability, and the next word, as soon as it crosses the 0.6 probability, the sum of those tokens won't be considered anymore. So like top K and top P defines how you are choosing those tokens for the prediction, and whereas the temperature is more about how free the model is to choose among those parameters. Does that answer your question, like to some extent? All right, that's good. That is a good question. All right, so
there is one more question on the chat regarding the vision. Like, is it paid or free? Can we use this on the images on the website?
Okay, no. So right now, like Vision is like the VertexAI is a paid service, but like you can use your free credits, $300, which you get for the new Google account to try out the services. But Vision like will let you export those images to use it in your content. However, the question regarding how you can use this in application, I mean, it's all we are playing around this. So for LLMs, there is this easy way. Like let's say you are training this, right? You told on the context that you are a tech support person, tech support bot, And you also gave an example. Let's say, let's say my laptop is not working, and try rebooting. This is the answer you expect, let's say. And you can provide hundreds of examples, in this and full context. And now, when you tried this, when you're satisfied with the response, this whole iterative process of changing the context, providing a lot of examples, defining how you want that model to be trained. Once it is done, and if you want to use it in application, you have here you can see the code, right? I don't know if you're able to see this. Let me refresh it. I think it's yeah. Let me give me a moment. Want pizza, and what pizza do you want? I want 3 pizzas. What kind of pizza do you want? Okay, right. So like the model is like somehow trained on my custom inputs. And yeah, okay. So when you click on the code, right, like so this part you can do without coding, but let's say if you want to use it in your application, it generates that template for you. You can set up your VertexAI SDK in Python and deploy this application. We can actually try this. Like it's not very hard. So let's say if you want to just set up your environment. I'm using Mac or Linux, so we can try it on quickly in Cloud Shell. So essentially, it gives you that Python API where you can like generate your own application in that using this training. Okay, while the machine is being provisioned, any other questions regarding like vision or LLMs?
Hi, Akshat. Thank you for this useful workshop. So basically, I have a question related to this. Like, if we want to fine tune the model, so is there any specific format we have to follow, like, or we can provide any kind of files like PDF or text files, or like, or if the data is of large amount, so how can we fine tune on that?
Okay. Okay. Good question. Like, so, okay. So like, we can park this code, but like, I think, let's say if you have, so essentially like what you can do is you can provide hundreds of example here in prompt and then do the training. But let's say you have thousands of examples, and like, in specific to your domain, you have a lot of research papers in your domain, medical industry, and you want to, in that sense, you would want to ideally retrain the model or fine tune that model further, like foundation model. They are already trained, but on top of that, you won't want to retrain those models. So in that case, like you can go to, let's say, create a tuned model. Like this is so regarding the prompts, it's more about prompt engineering. You provide examples, you provide in a human readable way, as if you're explaining to a guy or a kid, and then doing that. But like if you want to create a proper trained model, you can click on this, and it will it can. So in this case, like you can define what kind of model you want to create on top of your foundation models, and you can choose what is the base model, and or let's say whatever. If you want creating a model to generate code or test code, you can have different options on top of that. Train steps, you can choose different kind of parameters. You need to choose some kind of working directory where like it can store the artifacts, the pipeline which you will be running, the machine learning pipeline. You can actually choose, let's say if you want to use, let's say, demo GCS, you choose a bucket. and we choose a, like, let's say a region for our training. And yeah, Google manage encryption. And if we can define model name, let's say demo data couch, right? And click on continue. So like you can provide either a lot of examples around input and output format. So I had something ready, like it is supposed to be of this format, right? Like input text, create something, and like output text, enjoy. And you can provide hundreds of lines around this thing, right? So something like this, which I was trying to create, like, let's say, a lot of examples when I was trying this service myself. I was giving examples and then output of how it should respond. And you can give thousands of examples in this such scenario instead of typing on the console. And then you can upload that JSON file. Give me a moment. Let's yeah, file. You can give your location. Yes, couch, create, right? And then you can continue, and then it's up to you if you want to enable model evaluation against, like, the evaluation data set or not, and then you can start tuning. So the difference here is, like, now it already has, like, starting the tuning the model, retraining the model, and the pipeline is run. And so this, like, if you have a, let's say, huge data set which contains thousands of text and thousands of data, you can use this mechanism to, like, further optimize your model. All right, does that answer the question to some extent? All right, great. Yeah, so okay, so this is going to take some time because, like, it's training now. It's no longer adding a few layers. It's training the model on the data set which you provided on the sample file you provided, and it's going to take its own time. So yeah, so, like, this is the Generative AI Studio, but, like, I think there were some questions around, like, how you can build your whole application. So there is another thing called Generative AI App Builder, right? We can try out the service. Let's say we can try out in this project. Let's see if we have the access. Generative AI App Builder. Yeah, okay. So this is another, like, cool service which GCP provides, where you can, like, just with the help of few clicks, you can create your whole applications using the LLMs, right? So you would want to create a new app or create a new app, and you can, like, a major problem in today's industries can be around, like, how to consolidate their information. They have a lot of information, and they want to create, let's say, an internal search engine or an internal conversational bot or any recommendations engine. So they can click on search and create, you can name your engine, let's say, demo data couch engine, and you can pick a location where the instance would exist, application instance. And to back this search engine, you would need some kind of data store, right? So here you can, let's say, to answer the question, like you asked about, like, can you provide research papers? Can you provide unstructured data, structured data? So yes, you can provide. Let's say if I choose cloud storage here, or it can contain PDFs, it can contain HTML documents, and PPTs, document, whole sort of things. So I'll take an example, like if I want to browse any application, if I want to, let's say, I'll create a quick new bucket for this demo data couch bucket, right? And let's quickly create one, confirm, right? And I want to, let's upload a PDF file on that bucket, I would go to cloud storage. Yeah. And demo data process bucket, upload file. Let's say this is a random research paper, like I can upload. This is there. And now if you go back to the app builder, okay, okay, it's all gone again, but let's see. So if I want to create a search engine demo, engine, region, continue, create a data store, yeah, from cloud storage, and I want to give the path, yeah. So this would contain that research paper and what kind of data you're importing. So you can mention if it's a JSON file or a CSV file or unstructured. And once you click on continue, you can name this, let's say, research paper. So they can contain multiple papers as well if you have a long set of PDFs or any files, unstructured files. So once that data store is configured, right, like you can create it and your application would be created and you can test it out. So that's how easy it is to train it. So now, okay, I mean, the creation part is easy, but it will take some time to process and you can track it, like the import is already started. And essentially what it does is it will give you a prompt where you can search in like a search engine. You can ask that to summarize the whole documentation, whole research paper for you, and that will make it easy for you to generate your application. You can deploy it on App Engine further, and then you can also export the code and use that in your own application. I hope that answers the application part, how to create an application from these models. All right. Any other question? That sounds good. Okay. Thanks, Fahad. All right. Yeah, I think I'll get back to the slides. So where I was, explaining about prompt engineering, where you provide the input context. I told you you can provide a whole story, whole paragraphs, and the questions should be very specific, not generic. So that's a good prompt design. It's a proper profession now. The companies are hiring the prompt engineers who essentially do this only. Their job is to provide a lot of input and output examples so that their model and their application gives good results specific to their company. So it's a proper profession now, and it's a new skill to develop. Now, example can be as I said, when I was giving that, the output of the capital of France is Paris, the capital of Germany is Berlin, capital. So I'm giving the examples also for the prompt, so that whenever it gets a new question around the new capital, it knows whether to answer in a one sentence or one word or whatever format based on the examples I'm providing to the prompt. So that is one way to do that. An output format is when I mentioned you can only answer in yes or no format, or you can classify only you can maybe give answers from 1 to 5, rate only 1 to 5. So I'm defining the output format for certain questions in a just human readable format. So that is a good prompt design, I would say. Now, so we did the demo, right? Essentially what major difference what you found is in LLMs, you actually don't need any machine learning expertise. You can just as a human, as a user, how you would want to get that model, how you want to experience that, you can provide examples and prompts using that. No training examples, no need to train an actual model unless you are doing fine tuning, which we were doing just a moment ago. And you only have to do think about prompt design, prompt engineering, and that would pretty much do the job. Compared to earlier, what we had is traditional machine learning development, where we used to train the models. Machine learning expertise was required. You had to know coding, and you needed a lot of hardware as well to train your model, and a lot of cost was also included. So. Right. So like VertexAI offers a lot of foundation models on which on top of which you can build your own applications. So like just to give you an example, there we have something called Model Garden here, and like it already has a lot of task specific models trained on top of which you can build like sentiment analysis or syntax analysis or object detectors. Like there are a lot of options, right? Translation, a lot of things. So in the Model Garden, you can search whatever you want, and then based on that, you can choose either to build your own custom model from general foundation model, or go for specifics. And for vision, like some of the famous models are like embedding extractor or stable diffusion, like which makes use of like GANs to generate the images. All right, yeah. So I think with this generative AI thing, like there can be a lot of concerns around like how responsibly we can use, because when we are talking about synthetic content generation, like there is no limit. Like we have also found some deep fake videos, or like it's very easy to spread fake news. So it's important to take account of these principles, right? Accountability, transparency, and like a lot of responsible principles while you are building your application. You need to ensure like there is no bias or unfairness in your application. So, any questions? I think this is what I'm done with the slides. But do you have any questions? So I'm open to Q&A now.
Palak has raised the hand.
Okay, tell me.
Palak, you want?
Palak, you are on mute, I guess.
Hi Akshat, thanks for the session. It was very informative. I have a question, like you talked about responsible AI. So I wanted to ask, as a developer, how can I ensure these things are taken care of to avoid any bias?
Okay, yeah, it's a very fair question, right? Because like I'm talking about this principle, but as a developer, how can you ensure that even intentionally or unintentionally you do this, achieve this or not? Like, but I would say I was talking more in terms of the organization level. These things are supposed to be taken care by organization at their own level. They would want to take accountability, like what they are producing, whatever results they are giving. They are the one providing the data. They are transparent about it, like how they are generating that data, what is the like underlying mechanism. They would want to ensure fairness. Now when I say fairness, like it means that that the model should not be biased towards anything. There can be like, because see, AI or generative AI is more like reflection of what exactly how the society is real, right? So the risk with generative AI is it can either amplify the already existing biases in the society, and be it regarding like ethnicity or race or like gender or sexual orientation and disabilities. I think a good way to address your concern is that when you are training the model, right, while during the training phase, choose a training set which is very inclusive, choose a large amount of data, get tested with a lot of different aspects, and human oversight is very important throughout the process. Like at each stage there should be a mechanism in your application to provide a loop, some kind of human feedback, so that the model is taken care in terms of like it doesn't create any sensitive issues or anything. And it should also address privacy concerns, like whatever you just need to collect whatever data is just essential to build your application. We don't want to like raise any privacy concerns among our users, because they will like lose the trust. I can give you an example, like not at an individual level, but like what Google essentially promises to do is like they would never use AI for, let's say, in fields like weaponry, which can harm someone or anything like this. That's one example. So I think as a developer, your concern is right, but like it is more supposed to be from an organization point of view. Every organization is defining their own AI, responsible AI principles, and they can act accordingly. I hope that like answers the question, Palak.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
All right. Yeah.
There is a tool also mentioned, Palak, on the chat, which is What If tool. You can explore that as well. That helps in removing the bias and understanding it, data from different perspectives. That can also help you.
Correct. So, I mean, I think yes, the idea was to like get you kickstarted on your generative AI journey on GCP. You see, there are a lot of tools, which you can explore. There are like a lot of tools which are covered in $300 credits as well. And I would say like go there and try to build your own applications, try to play around it. And even it's a very new stage, so you can also provide feedback so that like Google also improves on their services. You can always connect with me over the LinkedIn, and you can always I would say follow the company Data Couch as well for future meetups. They keep arranging these kind of sessions to get you kickstarted in your journey and to provide overviews. And yeah, so over to you, Bhavuk.
Thank you so much, Akshat. It was a great session. And we just posted links where you can enroll for the future classes, as well as if you want to get updates about the future meetups, then you can connect with us on LinkedIn. Our page, we share a lot of informational videos as well as articles related to generative AI. Thank you so much for joining the session. We look forward to host you again in the near future.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice weekend.